What's up everybody, my name's Eddie. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is actually my first time doing a tier list video. I've always wanted to do one of these, but I never knew which subject to tackle, which franchise to rank, and it finally clicked. Why not just do one on Criterion movies? I've seen every movie on this tier list. I actually created this template myself, so yeah, it was very tedious to handpick all the posters, but hopefully the video will be well worth it. And I decided to split this into 3 parts because otherwise I feel like this video would run way too long. So this will be obviously part 1. Let's talk about the tiers here. And I actually do want to apologize in advance for the ads. I don't have the ad-free version of the tier maker. I don't make enough money for that. But let's get into it. So let's start at the bottom here. The worst tier. I went ahead and labeled it buyer's remorse. These are going to be movies that I bought and I regretted the purchase. So pretty self-explanatory there. Need to rewatch. These are movies that I may or may not have liked upon first viewing, but I'm willing to give them another shot, and there might be a chance that I will like it much more. Worth a blind buy. These are movies that are good. I'm not mad at the purchase. I'm glad I own it, and any movie in this tier I would probably recommend. The next tier is labeled closet pick. I considered putting closet pick at the top just because if you're familiar with Criterion, closet picks are very popular. You know, if you've ever seen a Criterion closet video, celebrities, people walk into the Criterion closet and pick out their favorites. So just by the name alone, this feels like it should be at the top, but I just decided that it was going to be the second best tier. So for closet pick, these are great movies, probably 4 stars and up. These are movies that I'm glad I own and I don't regret buying. I would recommend. Obviously, just great movies. And then the top tier, peak cinema. These are just must-watches, masterpieces, some of my favorites in my collection. And one more thing, guys, before I get started, I don't feel like I really need to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. These are just my opinions. If one of your favorite movies is at the bottom of the tier, you know, nothing personal, guys. It just maybe really wasn't my cup of tea. We all have different opinions on movies, and maybe upon a rewatch I would like it more. Maybe not, who knows, but at least for the first time that I saw it, it wasn't for me. And there might be some movies near the top that you think are not deserving. This is just a personal list. It's just totally 100% my opinion. This isn't like an objective list or anything like that. These are just my opinions. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So kicking things off with a Goliath of a film, it's going to be Seven Samurai. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to throw this right up there in peak cinema. This is one of the greatest samurai movies ever made. It's very, very long. I want to say sitting well above 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken, but it's just so grand in scale. It's one of the first epics, if you could call it that. It reminds me of movies like Dances with Wolves, Braveheart, you know, just these movies that feel so grand in scale. Amazing costume designs, amazing action sequences. Of course, for its time, it was definitely groundbreaking. So Seven Samurai, extremely influential on movies even up until today. So gotta put this up in peak cinema. Next, we have A Night to Remember. Now this one, I'm gonna stick it up in closet pick. I've always been a fan of Titanic. I love the Cameron Titanic. A Night to Remember feels much more historically accurate. Just highlights the stories of like people who were actually on the ship. So it doesn't follow that love story the way the Cameron Titanic does. It doesn't really follow a particular set of characters. It just kind of goes through the events of the night, starting from the beginning when the ship was setting sail up until the end when it sinks. So very interesting, very cool watch, especially if you are interested in the events of the Titanic. Silence of the Lambs. Where should I put this? I'm just playing, guys. Peak cinema. Who doesn't love Silence of the Lambs? Is it a horror movie? Is it not? Who cares? It's a great movie. One of the few horror or horror adjacent movies to really make some noise at the Oscars, and very well deserving. Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins with career defining performances. You know, looking back, it's really not all that gory. Like from what I remember, there's not a lot of blood being shown, but still Jonathan Demme, the filmmaker, I want to say was a director, still was able to craft a very unsettling movie with the characters of Hannibal Lecter, Buffalo Bill. Yeah, just very tension filled and great characters. All right, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but The Last Temptation of Christ, not my favorite Scorsese. I am going to put this one on buyer's remorse. I wasn't very interested in this movie at all. It was a long one. I was actually quite bored. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever rewatch this. Next up, you got Beauty and the Beast. I'm going to put this on closet pick. I'm not too sure when exactly this was made. I want to say sometime in the 40s, but this movie was so good. It's rare that I watch a movie back to back, but when I first saw this, I immediately had to watch it immediately after, but with the commentary, just because I was so interested in how this movie was made and I wanted some insight. And this is one of those movies that, especially for the time, is very impressive. I mean, when you talk about practical effects, costume design, set design for that time period, I feel like this was definitely up there. And yes, it's a familiar story. I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar with the story of Beauty and the Beast. As far as I know, this was one of the first iterations of the story. I really think that this movie should be talked about more. I really don't hear a lot of people bring this up or ever see it like in any Criterion halls or recommendation videos. I think this movie deserves some love for sure. Next, we have The Blob from the 50s, your quintessential kind of monster sci-fi flick from the 50s. This one's going to be worth a blind buy. It's short, it has a tight runtime. You have the incredible Steve McQueen in this playing a high schooler, and the dude looks like 30. So yeah, that's always funny. But again, another movie with just fantastic practical effects. One that I actually prefer the remake, but this one is still very solid, very fun. Of course, you got that iconic scene of everybody running out of the theater when the blob is kind of oozing from under the cracks of the doors and through vents and things like that. So this is a fun time. This is just one of those, like, turn off your brain, eat some popcorn, and just enjoy a fun time. Next, we have Charade, a comedy slash thriller from the 60s starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. This one is going to go up in closet pick for me. This is a film directed by Stanley Donen. A lot of people refer to this movie as a very Hitchcock-like or type of feel, just because of the suspense, the twists, the turns, and I would have to agree, but definitely want to give Stanley Donen his credit. He was a director. He was able to craft this fantastic movie, like I said, starring Cary Grant, and it's just, I did refer to it as a comedy thriller, but it's so much more than that. I feel like there are so many more genres in this movie than just those two alone, and this movie takes some unexpected twists. I don't want to say too much. This is going to be just all spoiler free, but yeah, the back and forth between Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant was just so much fun to watch. As someone who didn't grow up watching these two actors, it was fun watching them just kind of interact and bounce off each other. So this was a really fun movie, a nice surprise. Yeah, one of my favorites from the 60s for sure. Next, a French-Dutch film from 1988, a movie that Stanley Kubrick himself has called one of the most or the most disturbing movies he's ever seen. And I'd have to agree, definitely a very disturbing movie. I'm going to stick it up in peak cinema. Now, this movie is about a young couple who are on vacation, and they stop at a gas station when the young girl goes inside and she is abducted. And this guy, the boyfriend, the husband, he has no idea what's happened to her. And that's all I'll say. I mean, definitely watch this movie if you haven't. Next, we have Notorious, an actual film directed by Alfred Hitchcock. And this one, I will have to say that I need to rewatch it. Obviously, it was extremely well shot. I mean, the camera angles, they are so impressive and inventive for the time. But honestly, I couldn't even tell you what this movie's about. From what I recall, something to do with, never mind. I don't even want to butcher it, but I'm just going to stick this one. I need to rewatch. I've only seen it once, but it didn't leave a lasting impression on me. But it does have Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman in here, who is always a treat to watch on screen, and an appearance by Claude Rains, who did a lot of the Universal Monster movies. So yeah, I need to rewatch that one. Next, All That Money Can Buy. I actually did a video. If you're familiar with my channel, I do a segment called Criterion Conversation from time to time, and I had my friend Alex from Cinema Inspired on, and we talked for nearly an hour about this movie, breaking down the special features, the packaging, the film itself, and I did like it. I watched it only the once. I wouldn't put it up in peak cinema, but I'll put this up on, ooh, this one's tough. I want to put it on Closet Pick, but you know what? I'll put this on Worth a Blind Buy. I really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it to anyone. But, you know, it's about a guy who, I want to say he was a farmer, and he is down on his luck. I mean, this guy has hit rock bottom. He doesn't have money. He has nowhere to turn. He's basically at a low point in life, and he somehow comes across the devil. And he makes a deal with the devil. So he goes through this entire journey where all of a sudden he is given riches and he's given everything he's ever wanted. But of course, you make a deal with the devil, that comes with a price. So yeah, Worth a Blind Buy, check it out. But it's not one of my favorites in the collection. Solid though, definitely solid. This might be a hot take. I know Akira Kurosawa is a beloved director, and I fully acknowledge he's one of the GOATs, but for me, Ikiru, I'm going to put it on, which one shall it be? You know what? Buyer's Remorse. And I'm sorry, I know a bunch of people are going to get mad at me for this. It was just a very slow-paced, drawn-out movie, and I don't mind that if it's done right and if the story hits me and it's engaging. And this one just didn't do it for me. I mean, I will say it is a very somber yet relatable film. It's about this guy, this main character, who finds out he has a terminal illness and he has only a few days to live. So he starts to come to terms with his mortality, and that's something that we can all sort of relate to. I mean, hopefully not, not saying the terminal illness part. That's not what I mean. Hopefully nobody is going through that watching this video, or that took a quick turn. That's not what I was trying to say. I'm basically just trying to say that it's, we're all going to die one day, and it's something that we need to come to terms with. So if you look at it from that lens, it's a very impactful film. It's just not one that I would want to rewatch all that often. It's not one that I necessarily enjoyed. And although I can appreciate a film that, is a gut punch and is emotional and hard to watch, this one just didn't really connect with me all that much. Now, here's a movie that I really did connect with. Where should I put this one? Near the top for sure. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put this up on peak cinema. Onibaba, directed by Kaneto Shindu. You got that classic image there on the cover, that demonic mask. And this is one that I've always seen on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. I just passed on it so many times, and I'm kicking myself for not getting it sooner, because this was such a fantastic movie. Great, commentary on sexuality, human impulse, survival, and just so many human emotions. And this is just about, and I talked about this recently on my Criterion haul, so I won't get into it too much, but yeah, I'll just say that I really liked it. If you want to hear more thoughts, I guess just you can check out that Criterion haul. But next up we have Videodrome. This is one that I need to rewatch, guys. I'm not the biggest body horror guy, I'm not the biggest fan. I can appreciate it for sure, and I definitely appreciate the effects that this movie was able to create. But this is from David Cronenberg, and it definitely has a lot to say on society and just the dangers of advertising and media. And it's something that's very relatable, even today, with how much time we spend on social media and ads popping up everywhere. and how they can easily leave very lasting impression on how we think and how we act. But yeah, rough watch at times. I'm very sexual in nature, so if you can stomach that sort of thing, I mean, you might enjoy this. It's from David Cronenberg, so I mean, if you like Cronenberg and body horror, this might be right up your alley. But I need to give this one another shot. Next up, we have Hoop Dreams. I'm gonna stick this one in worth a blind buy. This was a blind buy for me, like most of my Criterions are, and I am a basketball fan. I do like the NBA. I watch the NBA. I've played basketball. And this is a basketball documentary that follows two young teens from, I want to say, Chicago. And it follows them throughout their journey, you know, in the public school, and just follows their journey to try and make the NBA, to become professional basketball players, all in the face of adversity, poverty, racism, and it just tackles all these topics that are very real even today. This is a good one. I'd recommend checking it out, and you just have to watch and see if these guys made it to the NBA. So yeah, I won't spoil anything. Next, one of my favorite coming of age movies, one of my favorite hangout movies, a great movie to throw on in summertime or just anytime really. Dazed and Confused. All right. I mean, come on, you guys. We're talking about one of the most quotable movies, one of the best soundtracks. It's just an amazing movie from the 90s. Richard Linklater, he did something special with this. I know this wasn't very popular when it released, but eventually became a cult classic. And I watched this later in life, and I'm so glad I discovered it because it's a great movie. Bicycle Thieves. I'm going to put this up here on Closet Pick. Good movie, sad movie. I want to say it's Italian from what I can recall. I've only seen it once. And it follows this man on the cover here, this main character who is fighting for employment. It's very, very tough to get a job in the city where he resides. Very competitive. And he actually gets an opportunity when all of a sudden his means of transportation, his bicycle, is stolen from him. So therefore he is unable to get to work. So he spends the day with his son trying to track down these bicycle thieves to obtain his bike once again and to be able to provide for his family. So it's a very very sad movie. Definitely hits you in all the feels, but very, very good and impactful movie. Next we have La Haine. I'm gonna put this on worth a blind buy. I know a lot of people would have this in peak cinema, and hey, no arguments there, but just for me personally, it's good. It's good. I'll just say, it's a French film with starring Vincent Cassel, who puts on a great performance, and it's about this young group of friends who somebody gets beaten by police. Like there's this clear case of police brutality, and this community just riots, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, it's so real. Like the themes that it tackles are so real and relevant today. And it's one of those movies that definitely lingers. And even though I put it on worth a blind buy, it's one that I also need to rewatch. But it's one of those like heavy films that you don't really want to rewatch all that often. But I'm going on a couple years since I've seen it now, and I'll still recommend it, but I also want to give it a rewatch. Ace in the Hole, Billy Wilder film, one of my favorite directors, although this is not one of my favorites from him. So I'm going to put this on worth a blind buy. Still recommend it. Still a very solid film. I like to call this Nightcrawler before Nightcrawler because it follows a very similar character who is a photographer. He's trying to get, the money shot, so to speak. But yeah, it follows a main character played by Kirk Douglas. And he's this reporter or journalist who, is kind of struggling where he works. He's had a hard time. He hasn't really, hit big yet. And he hears about this, what was it? I forget. I guess a miner or something trapped in a mine shaft. So it's this big spectacle where everyone's trying to see, the extraction attempt. And Kirk Douglas goes out there and he's trying to get a front page picture. So, he definitely does some morally gray things. He says some things that are questionable. So it's an interesting character study on how that yearning for fame or riches can definitely change a person. So that's one that I would say is worth a blind buy. Check that one out if you haven't. Days of Heaven. I'm going to put this one on buyer's remorse. Now, I will say Terrence Malick is someone that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. He makes very slow, very little dialogue type of films, but man, if his movies aren't some of the most beautifully shot I've ever seen. Cinematography gets an A+. Story and characters, I can't really, I gotta care about what's going on, man. Just because you shoot a beautiful movie, it's not enough for me to buy in. So yeah, I kind of bought this because Criterion came out with a 4K, and for the longest time the Blu-ray was out of print, so I just wanted to have it in my collection. Yeah, wasn't really for me. Okay, Do the Right Thing. All right, this one's an interesting one for me because I don't necessarily enjoy it more than, let's say, something like Charade, but I do acknowledge the impact that this has had on, generations and individuals. And Spike Lee as a director is fearless, and for that, I definitely respect him. And you got some great appearances by actors like Giancarlo Esposito. Just off the top of my head. Yeah, I've only seen this once, but I can see why it's such an important film. And although I didn't relate to it so much on a personal level, I was really able to put myself in this world, on this block in New York on this hot summer day, and just feel the injustices, the pain that some of these characters had to deal with. And even, there's even some funny moments, some fun interactions between characters from all walks of life. And yeah, Do the Right Thing, man, this is peak cinema right here. Paths of Glory, a very brutal war film. Not brutal in terms of like gore and things like that, just more so of just like the ruthlessness of commanding officers in power, superiors. And there's even somewhat of a courtroom scene in this, which I was extremely just attracted to. Like, I was enthralled by this scene. And another Kirk Douglas film, I don't know if I mentioned, this was a Kubrick, not one of my favorite Kubricks, can't talk right, but man, this is an important film, a very impactful film. This is going to be one that I'm gonna have a tough time placing this, but you know what, I'm just gonna stick it on closet pick. Yeah, very, very good ending as well, so that's gonna go there. Night of the Hunter, man, one of cinema's most evil villains, played by Robert Mitchum, who puts on like one of the creepiest performances I've ever seen. And this was actually a Charles Laughton directed film. Unfortunately, this movie didn't do so well when it was initially released back in the 50s. But now, it's beloved and respected. So unfortunate that Charles Laughton wasn't able to see the success that this film eventually became and the appreciation that it got throughout the years. But I'm going to put this on, or in rather, I'm going to put this in closet pick. Yeah. This is one of those movies where the shadows and the lighting and the cinematography just really stands out. Especially that black and white cinematography. It's just so beautiful to look at. Okay, Easy Rider. I'm going to put this on Need to Rewatch. I just remember a young Jack Nicholson, a pretty cool soundtrack, and road trip movie vibes. Weird ending, but yeah, I'm just going to put that on Need to Rewatch. Dennis Hopper's in that too. Walkabout, Buyer's Remorse. This was a snooze fest. I was not interested in this movie whatsoever, in what was going on, the characters. It even had weird shots. Like at times it looked like or it was shot like a nature documentary, and not in the best way either. One of my favorite filmmakers, Guillermo del Toro, Cronos, kind of his take on vampire films. This is going to be a closet pick for sure. Not one of his best, but for me personally, I just love his style. I love, his effects in this movie, his unique twist on the vampire genre. The main character finds this sort of device that you see on the cover here, and he is, I guess you can say, bit by this device. And yeah, just wild ride. Definitely give this one a watch if you haven't. Blowout. I feel like I need to put more movies in peak cinema, but again, this is just a personal list. Like, I know so many more movies are deserving of that slot, but Blowout might be one of those. I did like it, but I've only seen it once. Pending a rewatch, I could totally see this one going up on rewatch, so I'm just going to stick it on peak cinema. Blowout's such a good movie. It follows John Travolta's character, who is like this sound design guy. He records noises for movies, and he accidentally picks up a sound or evidence of a murder. So, or what appears to be a murder. It definitely, a death occurs, and it occurs in some shady circumstances. And then you have John Lithgow in this. He also plays a great role. Nancy Myers. So yeah, great cast here. That's peak cinema right there. Something Wild. I'm going to put this in peak cinema. I really had a good time with this. Jeff Daniels, Melanie Griffith, Ray Liotta, and it follows Jeff Daniels. He's this kind of like aw shucks guy, and he meets Melanie Griffith, who's very free-spirited, outgoing, extrovert type of personality. And yeah, they just meet up and go on this like totally spontaneous road trip. And somewhere along the way, they meet Ray Liotta's character, who happens to be Melanie Griffith's character, ex-husband. So it turns into somewhat of a cat and mouse game. And yeah, just again, one of those movies with lots of twists and turns. It's really good. I would recommend that. The Killing, another Kubrick, peak cinema. One of the best heist movies I've ever seen. Paris, Texas, peak cinema. I'm running out of room here. It's all right. We'll just do that. Scroll up. Paris, Texas. Yeah, I mean, fantastic film. 12 Angry Men. I'm not going to waste any time. Great courtroom type of movie. One location. Super engaging dialogue. Great characters. I mean, this movie is a masterpiece. The Game. I recently watched The Game. It stars Michael Douglas. I don't want to say anything because anything I say will feel like a spoiler. But you also have, what's his name? I'm not going to look it up. I have to remember his name. Sean Penn. Sean Penn is in this. He plays Michael Douglas's brother. You know what? I'm going to put this in Worth a Blind Buy. It's a good movie. Not great. The ending will maybe make or break it for you, but yeah, I'll stick it on Worth a Blind Buy. Still recommend it. Rosemary's Baby, peak cinema, one of the best, most effective horror movies I've ever seen. No jump scares needed, just pure atmosphere, tension building, suspense. We're not going to talk about the filmmaker, not the best guy in the world, but I can separate the art from the artist in this case, and it's just a really good film. And I'll have to say, one of my favorite horror movies, and one of my favorites from the 60s. Probably one of Christopher Nolan's least known movies. It will probably be at the bottom of a lot of people's Nolan ranking, but I still think it's worth a blind buy. You can definitely see Nolan's DNA in this movie. His style, nowhere near as grand in scale as movies like Inception, obviously Interstellar. This was a shoestring budget. It has very much of that film student project, feel to it, but still very solid watch. I would recommend it. Repulsion. Oh, Buyer's Remorse. Another one from director Roman Polanski, but it just was not for me. Weird, boring. Yeah, not a good time. If you like that sort of thing, that psychological slow burn, just wasn't wasn't enough payoff in my opinion. Straw Dogs, some tough to watch scenes. I liked aspects of it, like Dustin Hoffman's performance, but it just really wasn't my cup of tea. It's just, I actually sold that one, and Repulsion as well. Yeah, I just don't really feel the need to rewatch those movies. Repo Man, I need to rewatch. It's kind of like one of those 80s punk rock feel to it. You got Emilio Estevez in here. Yeah, honestly, I couldn't really tell you the story to this movie. It's very weird. Weird moments for sure. But I like the aesthetic and some of the best packaging in the Criterion Collection. 310 to Yuma. Oh, this is a good one. Really solid Western from the 50s. Great Glenn Ford performance. Should I do it? Should I do it? Peak cinema as far as Westerns go. It's just very short runtime. Never lets up. Engaging from start to finish. Like I said, Glenn Ford is in this. Now this one actually has a remake directed by James Mangold. I do prefer the remake, although this is a very, very good Western. And it follows Glenn Ford and I forget the other actor's name, but Glenn Ford is this like criminal robber, and the other actor, he's a rancher, and he's tasked with taking Glenn Ford to the train station to catch the 310 to Yuma, where Glenn Ford's character will be awaiting his trial. So it just follows them on their journey. And of course, you know, Glenn Ford is trying to escape, talk him out of it, things like that. So their interactions are super fun to watch and just really, really engaging movie. The Devil's Backbone, another Del Toro. I might be biased, but I'm going to put this in peak cinema. Another one that I really don't hear a lot of people talk about, especially when it comes to Del Toro. You know, you hear about Pan's Labyrinth, of course, the more mainstream stuff, Blade 2, Hellboy, but Devil's Backbone, if you're a horror fan, you gotta check this out. I mean, even if you're not a horror fan, because I wouldn't necessarily classify this as full-on horror, though there are supernatural elements. And it takes place in, I want to say Spain, near or around a war. And he's left, this little boy that it follows is left in an orphanage, and he starts to see this ghost of a young boy. And you know, at first he's very frightened. He doesn't know what's going on, but he soon starts to uncover, I guess, the reasons why he's seeing this boy, or who this boy is, or who he was. The real villain and the real horror is some of the humans in this movie, and it's a very, very good, I guess you can call it ghost story. This is one that will definitely stay with you for a while, and it actually also stars the actor who comes out in Kronos. So yeah, good actor. Next up, Frances Ha. This is one I saw recently, and this one I'm gonna put in buyer's remorse. Not that it's a bad film, but I just don't feel or think that I would ever need to rewatch it. So yeah, a Noah Baumbach film, sort of a coming of age story. I also talked about this recently in my Criterion Collection video or Criterion Haul video. So if you want to hear some thoughts, definitely check that one out. And last but not least, we have James Caan in Michael Mann's Thief, and I need to rewatch this. It's a heist movie essentially, and of course James Caan just oozes style in this movie, but it was a very slow burn, and I couldn't really tell you much else of what happened or any motivations. I was kind of uninterested in the whole thing, but I mean, the vibes are immaculate, the 80s feel to it. The score was great. It's just one that I need to rewatch because I didn't appreciate it fully on the first time, or at least the first time around. But there you have it, guys. I hope I didn't step on any toes. Sorry if your favorites are near the bottom of my tier list. But as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be part 1 of 3 of this Criterion tier list. Hopefully, if enough people watch or enough people are interested, or if I just feel like doing it again, hopefully, you know, I want to finish it off, I'll do a part 2 and eventually a part 3. But yeah, guys, there goes the tier list. I hope you enjoyed the video, and definitely let me know if you want to see more of this, because or other types of tier lists. I can definitely do other franchises, genres, labels, who knows? But the possibilities are endless. But I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope my first tier list video was fun to watch. And let me know where you would rank some of these movies. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.